listening to Reality Rap. I'm your host, Melanie. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hey guys, hope everybody's doing great out there. I have my organic yerba mate peach revival, so I am fully caffeinated and ready to go. Today I'm going to be recapping last night's episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 5, Episode 9. What a great season this has been so far, and after watching the mid-season trailer last night, I am so excited for the rest of the season. It looks so good. Even though some of these ladies get on my nerves, this cast does seem to be working pretty well so far. Except for Heather. We can get rid of her. We didn't have her at all in last night's episode, and it was so great not to have her. We didn't even see her once. No solo scene, no nothing, and it was amazing. Mary, who also wasn't on this trip, got a solo scene, which was hella sad, I'm not gonna lie. But for whatever reason, we didn't get anything from Heather. So it just goes to show that outside of this show, she must not have a whole lot going on, because they couldn't even put together a solo scene of what she was up to when these guys were all on this cast trip. So this episode starts out on the heels of Todd telling John that if Lisa doesn't stop, that they're gonna have to leave. And we see John and Lisa go outside, and Lisa tells John that she thinks that Whitney is causing the problems between her and Bronwyn. Now, in most situations, I would have to agree with Lisa. Whitney does cause a lot of problems within this group. On purpose. I think she makes a lot of stuff up just to stir up the drama and have a storyline and all that. And a lot of it's based on how she's feeling about somebody and not actually what somebody had actually done to her. But in this case, for her to blame Whitney on what's going on with Bronwyn, I have to disagree. Lisa, you were the one who called Heather on a trip that Bronwyn's paying for, and then right in front of Bronwyn tells Heather, "We miss you, we wish you were here." And for whatever reason, Lisa lacks the self-awareness to realize that you really shouldn't have done that. It was super tacky. And if she had just admitted last night, you know, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and then actually apologized to Bronwyn for it, I think she'd be coming off a lot better out of this episode than the way she came out of this episode. This episode was not a good look for Lisa at all. They all go and sit down for lunch, and it was super awkward. They're all just sitting there eating in silence. Lisa decides this is the best time to start a conversation with Bronwyn, even though we just saw her talking to John and saying that she doesn't want anyone around when she has this conversation with Bronwyn. It's almost like she can't help herself to start this conversation, like she has no impulse control. I can't imagine what John was thinking when she started this conversation at the table. Well, after he had just told her, yeah, you should have this conversation in private with her. And here she is. She can't help herself. She tells Bronwyn that she thinks that Heather was just expressing her feelings, unlike Whitney, who was telling lies about her. Whitney's like, I was not lying, Lisa. I told you information that I was told. Again, Adam claims that this is not what he said, that the call was taken out of context. But this is the story that Whitney's currently going with, so we're going to roll with it. Whitney tells Lisa that she told her calmly and that Lisa was the one who started crying and ranting and charged her husband. Lisa tells her that Justin is fully capable of taking care of himself and that her husband would never talk to a woman like that. Again, Lisa, you were calling Whitney an effing liar in Justin's face. I'm not justifying the way Justin responded to her, but he was allowed to have a reaction. And I really can't believe that Lisa has me defending Whitney. When Lisa says that her husband would never talk to another woman like that, I think what we also need to acknowledge is the fact that I don't think any of these other women would approach somebody's husband in the same manner that Lisa did with Justin and running up to him and calling his wife an effing liar.
So rewind. Ask Lisa, did she do it? Just ask the question with a question mark at the end. Did she do it?
Did you do it?
No.
There, done.
Done. No.
Simple, right?
The answer is no.
That's the end. That's done. There's nothing more. Whitney, did you lie about anything about Lisa?
Never.
Done.
Never lied
Okay.
about you. I may have said mean things that I felt at the time, but I've never lied about you.
Lisa has never lied about you. Lisa's never lied about anybody at this table.
Well, I'm gonna
Didn't
have
she
to
tell
sit with
somebody that you're a
That's
bitch, though?
Yeah, she told me I was.
It's borderline abusive, and I've been privy to conversations between the two of you, and really taken back by some of the abuse that my wife has taken on the other end of that phone call.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm not abusive to her. Why is her husband talking to me? He's lucky I could see him over the table.
You know, I'm on the other end of that, thinking to myself, like, why the do you let anybody treat you like that?
I have a different way of speaking, and if you guys clearly don't understand me, if I have hurt you, I am sorry.
So many things to unpack here. First off, I don't see how John can't see that Lisa starts trouble. Or maybe he does and he would just never let us know what he really thinks. You have to give it to him. He has Lisa's back no matter whether she's in the right or the wrong. He is going to defend her. And it's funny, Mary brings up a good point on the after show. She says, so does that mean Lisa wasn't lying about Meredith sleeping with half of New York? Pretty interesting. Lisa also says she doesn't understand why Sean is talking to her when we just watched John do the same thing when he was asking Whitney if she ever lied about Lisa. Sean was just defending his wife by saying, didn't you call my wife an effing bitch, or whatever he said? Why is it okay for her husband to get involved but not for anybody else's husband to get involved? I don't know. She's pretty hypocritical. At least she kind of apologized to Angie for hurting her feelings, whether or not she meant it or not. Who knows? But at this point, I think that's all she's going to get out of Lisa. Over at Mary's house, we see Mary go up to her son's room, and this scene was so uncomfortable. Robert and his girlfriend were in bed eating, and they were clearly high, and she wants to know what his plans are for the week, and he tells her he doesn't know. And in her talking head, she tells us that she's worried about Robert and his lack of motivation, and she feels like she's losing him to something. And I think she means drugs when she says she's losing him to something. She tells Robert that she doesn't think he's ready for the world and she wants him ready. And I felt so bad for her right here. But at the same time, I'm like, you're kind of enabling him by letting him and his girlfriend live in the house. They're sitting upstairs. They aren't doing anything all day. She gives him money when he asks for it. But then on the flip side, what's she going to do? Kick him out? And then God knows what he'll end up doing. At least when he's at the house, she can kind of keep an eye on him. I don't know. It's a hard situation for any parent to find themselves in. And I definitely feel bad for her. We get a remake scene of Top Gun, which took me a minute to figure out. At first I was like, what the hell is this airplane thing? And then I was like, oh, now I get it. It's Top Gun. Anyway, we see everybody playing volleyball. After the volleyball game, they're all getting ready to go to Todd and Bronwyn's anniversary party, and we see Lisa telling John that she feels like she's in a better place now with Bronwyn. I don't see how she came to the conclusion that she's in a better place with Bronwyn, because at the lunch, she started addressing Bronwyn, but then it turned to Whitney, and then it turned to Angie. I don't feel like she actually got anywhere with Bronwyn, unless they cut it out. I don't know. Or she's just saying that she's in a better place with Bronwyn, so she doesn't have to leave, or maybe she actually believes that in her little Delulu mind. I don't know, but we never actually saw her and Bronwyn have a conversation. It started that way, but then kind of went sideways with the Whitney and Angie stuff. In Bronwyn and Todd's room, he is putting on her $4 million necklace that he bought, or maybe it was just borrowed for the night. I don't really know. I can't imagine he'd buy a $4 million necklace, right? So she leans in to give him a kiss, and he just walks off. And I'm telling you, something is not right with him. I wonder if Bronwyn came on this show as a launch to leave him. We've seen this so many times with other housewives. They come onto the show when their marriage is a mess, and then it ends up in divorce. So they all go downstairs and they're all mingling, and we hear Todd talking to one of his friends, and he's telling his friend that John and Lisa own a tequila company, and then we hear him say, yeah, the tequila's mediocre, and I died. And of course today, Lisa went onto her Twitter and she posted her Vita tequila as a luxury tequila. And you know that was in response to what she heard Todd say, that her tequila was mediocre. They all go sit down for dinner, and Bronwyn makes the weirdest toast.
It's chilly out here. It's miserable, but it's beautiful. Kind of it's an analogy for Todd and I's marriage. It's miserable, but beautiful. No, Obviously, I adore Todd. I don't want to bore everybody with all the reasons. Actually, I could do it really fast. There's only two. No, there's too many things.
Top three.
Too many things I adore about Todd. All the things, if you take out your black card is a reason I like you, I swear to God. I knew that's what you were going for. We have tons of fun together. He has made me a better person. Everything is so wonderful. And I feel that way about so many of you as I'm getting to know you, as I've known you for a long time. And I think we have good days, we have bad days. And we hope that The good and the bad are fun, at the very least. Or at least a good story at the end of it, right?
Fair enough.
Okay, so maybe to a good story.
Yeah, so that was a super weird toast. And he doesn't seem overly impressed by it. He's just sitting there with his arms crossed over his chest. And when she's done, he just says, fair enough. He doesn't say anything nice about being married to her. Nothing, just fair enough. Now, Bronwyn did post an apology on her Instagram to Todd. Let me read it to you guys really quick. Happy meet-iversary, Todd. I hate that I put you in a position where you were uncomfortable on this trip and not able to be your best self. And I hate that I had a part in showing our relationship as anything but what it is. What a wonderful 10 years of fun, laughter, happiness, and sticking by each other through the ups and the downs. Unfortunately, that was not best honored by my girlfriends arguing and my comebacks that only made things worse. I regret my awkward attempts at using self-deprecating humor in a toast on such a special night. What I should have said was, I love Todd deeply and he makes me laugh. He pushes me to be my best and I couldn't be happier to have him in my life. We've had good days and some bad, like most married couples, and I would choose him every time. So it almost sounds like she is taking responsibility for Todd's bad behavior, or not bad behavior, but like gruff behavior. Now I'll give it to her. Her toast was not good, but all the other things that Todd does is not because of her. It's because of him. He's a grown man and she's not responsible for his reactions to what's happening around him. And I really hate that it sounds like she's taking responsibility for the way he's behaving. Angie brings out one of her games to the table, which is similar to the newlywed game. One of the questions is, who is your wife's least favorite person at the table? And before everybody is done writing their answers, Lisa holds up her board and it says Whitney, which is no surprise there. And Bronwyn and Justin both say Lisa, and Lisa almost seems offended by this somehow, even though she was quick to stick her board up and say Whitney. Whitney then asks Lisa if she thinks that Justin still owes her an apology.
Do you still feel like Justin owes you an apology?
Yes.
Have you ever been that aggressive towards him, though?
I didn't feel like I was aggressive towards him. I felt like I was frustrated because what you were saying is a lie.
But you came directly.
I said, and I know what I said. I said, how do you deal with your wife being a liar?
I know that my wife's not a liar. And so when that came to me, the way it came to me, my reaction was probably stronger than I wish it would have been.
Thank you.
So I apologize.
Thank you, Justin.
For how I reacted to that.
And I'm sorry for putting you in that position.
Thank you for apologizing to him.
Okay.
Because that's something that we've never done before. Bring the husbands into it.
Never.
So there you go. They both apologize to each other. And Whitney tells us that she is done with the Alibaba rumor. We'll see. If we've learned anything from Housewives, it's that none of these women actually let anything go. It always comes back around. And you know it's going to come back around at the reunion, especially now that Adam has come out and said that that is not at all how the conversation went. You know Lisa's probably following that pretty closely, and she's going to bring that up at the reunion. So we'll see it again for sure. Now it's Meredith's turn to tell Sean that she's still upset after their chat, and he's like, why? I thought we were good after that conversation. She tells him that she was really hurt by what he said about Brooks. Like I said last week when I played what Sean actually said on Behind the Velvet Rope, he didn't say anything wrong. It was David Yontif who implied that Meredith was using her son first, and he was just responding to what David had said. He did not directly say anything bad about Brooks. Whitney tells Meredith to show the proof that Sean said something about Brooks, and Seth reads a headline from an article from Reality Tea. I mean, come on. It's an article from Reality Tea. It's hardly proof of anything. It's more like an opinion of a blogger. Seth thinks that his proof is the shit because he takes his phone and he turns it around and he shows it to the table and he's like, proof, biatch. He's so stupid. Apparently that night he also told Sean that he didn't even listen to the podcast. So I guess he was only going off of this article. I don't even care. Sean doesn't owe her an apology, period. She made herself look so stupid when she asked for another apology at this dinner. Angie tries to change the subject and she brings up how Gwen is reconnecting with her grandparents. And when I heard her say this, it was like slow motion. I was like, no, Angie, don't say that. And Todd shuts her down immediately and he tells her, no, Gwen is not reconnecting with her grandparents. In her talking head, Bronwyn tells us that Todd embarrassed her in this moment. And Todd tells us and his talking head that nobody should be bringing it up at the dinner table, that it's between Bronwyn and Gwen. Now, he's not wrong, but I don't think anybody brought it up to be malicious. I think Angie was just kind of bringing it up because Bronwyn was the one who had brought it up on camera first and even talked about it with Gwen on camera. So it kind of opens it up for discussion. And I think that's why Angie brought it up, because Bronwyn clearly had been talking about it. So she thought it was okay. Maybe Todd wasn't aware at this point that she had been discussing it with everybody on the cast. I don't know, but he definitely did not like the fact that they were talking about it at the table. The next morning, they get up and they're off to the Indy race. We get to see flashbacks of what happened after the dinner, and apparently they were all getting along. Whitney tells us that this morning she feels like they're all in a better place. So they all go to the race and they meet some guy who's going to be racing. I don't know anything about NASCAR or race car driving, so I have no idea who he was. They go up to the suite to watch the race. Bronwyn asks Lisa if they can have a chat again, but it ends up being too loud for them to hear anything, so they agree to do it later. Todd looks absolutely miserable. We see him just sitting at a table again with his arms just crossed over his chest, not looking at anybody. He's just looking down. Maybe he was looking at his phone. I don't know. But yeah, he was not interacting with anybody, or at least from what we could see. After the race, back at the house, Whitney, Justin, Angie, and Sean are all talking about how weird it was that Seth called them all biatches. I think it was Sean who's like, he's essentially calling you guys bitches. I was like, all right, calm down, Sean. I mean, I don't think that's what he was saying. He was just saying, biatch. I don't think he was calling everybody bitches at the table. Whitney and Angie feel like Meredith always has a problem with them. And I mean, in Meredith's defense, Angie did come into this season with a scroll demanding an apology from Meredith, but Meredith is pretty ridiculous about being upset at Whitney for selling bath bombs. So really, nobody's innocent here. They're all messy, and this is why we like these shows, right? Meredith and Seth are in their room, and Seth is getting ready to leave, and he's making sure that he and Meredith are good since he did extend his trip so he could watch the race. She tells us in her talking head that there are still issues because he's going to be gone all week in Ohio. And I'm like, okay, Meredith, he did stay longer. He can't help that he has to go to work now. So maybe give him just a little break, right? He's just trying to earn a living. Lisa and Bronwyn are having their sit down. And honestly, you guys, I'm over it. I'm starting to feel like maybe Bronwyn needs to let it go.
You've had your fun. Let the mouse go.
But she doesn't. And she tells Lisa that she feels like her being friends with Lisa's friends has changed the relationship. Lisa tells her, well, I had a conversation with Heather because Heather was upset. Bronwyn tells her that after Heather left her house, that she sat and she cried, and that Heather really said some mean things to her, like she's two-faced and conniving. She doesn't understand why Lisa doesn't stick up for her and tell Heather that Bronwyn is none of those things. And essentially, Lisa not sticking up for her makes her believe that Lisa does think that she's two-faced. Lisa tells her that she essentially thinks that neither of them were communicating what they actually meant very well, and that is why Heather felt that way. Bronwyn's like, I don't understand why you can't say that I'm not two-faced unless that's what you actually think of me. She then flat out asks Lisa, do you think I'm two-faced? And Lisa repeats the question. Lisa tells us in her talking head that she can't answer the question because she does feel like Bronwyn is two-faced sometimes and that she doesn't trust her 100%. I wish she would have expanded on that a little bit more as to why she feels like that. She doesn't, but maybe down the road we'll find out why she thinks that. Lisa tells her that she just wants to be a good friend to both of them, and Bronwyn's like, fine, I would like it to feel a little bit more balanced. So they hug, and I hope that this is it for this conversation because honestly, I am way over it. Bronwyn needs to come to terms with the fact that what she expects out of her friendship with Lisa is not at all what Lisa is willing to give. Who knows how close these two even were coming into the season. As we've seen on many, many, many other housewives shows, they'll bring somebody in as somebody's friend, but then we find out later that they actually weren't friends at all, or they were barely friends, they were just acquaintances. So I feel like that's probably not the case here though, because I don't think Bronwyn would be as upset as she is at Lisa. She clearly thought that they were better friends than Lisa does. I also think that that Lisa and Heather have some sort of alliance this season, and that is also why we see Lisa sticking up so much for Heather. Lisa knows that Heather is going to ride or die for her, so she doesn't want to lose that. It's time for everybody to leave, so they're all packing. Bronwyn is helping Todd, and she makes a comment, "What would you do without me?" And he says nothing. In his talking head, a producer asks if he would ever do a trip again, and he tells her no. You guys, after this season, we will never see Todd again. And I am going to make a prediction that in 5 years, they might not be together. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong, but there is something definitely off in their relationship. So they're about to leave for the airport, and everybody finds out that they're flying coach on the way home. This sends Lisa into a spiral, and she wants to upgrade her seat, but there are only 4 seats in first class, and Bronwyn and Todd got 2 of the seats. Lisa tells us that she doesn't carry coach, and she doesn't fly coach. This comment totally cracked me up, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't think Lisa realizes who her audience is. She's so out of touch with the regular people that carrying coach to her is the equivalent of flying coach to her. Lisa tells John that she wants to take a different flight home.
I want to get home to Henry, but I hate this.
So you want to make it longer and get home later? Just so
I know
you can
you
sit
don't.
in a bigger seat?
Yeah.
I don't.
I know you don't. I haven't flown coach since I was in college.
I know, but
Look at our flight and see if there's any first class ones available.
Lisa losing her mind about a 47-minute flight in coach is not the brat summer I hoped we were headed towards. I have already gotten Lisa a private plane. I have gotten her a gift. I have gotten John a gift. I have gotten them a rental house. She can sit in coach for 47 minutes. She's gonna be fine.
okay, so Maine's sold out. Comfort's sold out. They're all sold out.
You're kidding.
It's all right, just close your eyes and imagine you're in first class.
I mean, a worst case scenario, we just fly to LA. It's not like there's an issue with Henry.
Her reaction to having to fly coach for an hour was so ridiculous. I mean, I get it. Coach sucks, right? I don't think there's anybody who's like, yay, coach, it's great. But her reaction was so ungrateful considering Bronwyn and Todd paid for that entire trip. And for her to quite loudly make comments about having to fly coach was super tacky. Not to mention, they obviously left Henry for the weekend, and we hear her and John talking about how they can't wait to get back to him. But obviously, flying home first class was more important to her than flying coach because she was willing to have the flight be longer and have to have connections instead of being able to fly directly home and go see Henry. She was like, oh, Henry's fine. I don't know. I think Lisa has her priorities all mixed up as to what's really important in life. Maybe she was worried about people seeing her in coach because today she posted on Instagram a video of her getting onto a private plane, just so we're all aware that she normally doesn't fly in coach or even maybe commercial for that matter. It's beneath her. All right, guys, that's all I have for you for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Have a great weekend. Bye.